It's just recently become aware that people talk about two types of fun. Type 1 fun is your common fun, the everyday occurrences that you enjoy when you're doing it and give you good memories. It's the movie, a day at the beach, maybe a good concert. But for some reason, me and some of my friends really enjoy what they call type 2 fun. Type 2 fun is typically miserable when you're doing it. But for some reason, when you look back on it, you have great, great memories. And this is very real. I mean, for me, the challenges of both mental and physical of something like a marathon, an ultramarathon, or in this case, maybe a tough trail run is really what I'm after. And luckily for me, I have two friends, one of them which you know, Beth Horenkamp, and another friend, Heather, are here tonight. And they also are type 2 fun addicts. And so they were easily recruited to my idea last fall to run the Conestoga Trail Run again. When you go to the Conestoga Race Trail website, it describes the run as a tough 10 miles in southern Lancaster County along the Susquehanna River. It warns you about the ground wasps, the copperheads, the high risk for injury. And luckily for us, that day, the weather report was also predicting severe weather. What could be more perfect for a type 2 fun day? On that morning, we were doing quite well with our run until Beth ran into a mishap around mile 2 and twisted her ankle. We paused to regroup, and very quickly her ankle was swollen and bruised and painful. And obviously, the proper thing to do was to turn around and hobble back to the start. But I don't think Beth even considered that as a viable option. Instead, the three of us regrouped and plugged on, albeit a little bit slower pace than we had intended. Around mile 4, when we should have been pretty happy to have power walked up the second highest hill in the group, instead, we got to the top and second-guessed ourselves, thinking that maybe we had missed a turn somewhere on that trail. And we reluctantly turned back, went back down the hill, got to the bottom, realized that we had been right all along, climbed back up the biggest hill, taking away time, energy, and morale, and adding, a mile and a half to this already arduous run. Throughout the morning, the thunder clouds were warning us from the distance of what was to come, and occasional rain showers washed the mud and the sweat off our brow. Typically, mile 7 is the highlight of the day. You reach Pinnacle Overlook. There's usually a crowd there to encourage you, a table of food to refuel you as you're sent back into the woods for the remaining 3 miles of this amazing trail run. But by the time we trudged up Pinnacle, the only people who were there were a few race officials who asked us to hand in our bib and gave us the qualification of dreaded DNF, did not finish. Between Beth's twisted ankle and our rerouting on mile 4 and just our slow old age catching up with us, we had not quite reached Pinnacle by the deadline to be allowed to officially continue the race. Luckily for me, I have a few friends who are willing to debate, and after a few minutes of going back and forth with the officials, Beth was able to convince one of the officials to momentarily hesitate with the decision, and we were given the unofficial allowance to unofficially finish the race, and we did not hesitate, but rather restart our Garmins and dove back in the woods to finish the 3 miles unofficially. Within 3 minutes of going back in the woods, those storm clouds caught up with us, and the skies opened up, and now we're running in Kelly's Run in basically as dark as night. And the only thing that's keeping us to see anything is the flashes of lightning around us, which are relatively terrifying. The path through the woods is along the stream. It's rocky, it's moss covered. It's like ice by now with all the rain. And it's the slowest 3 miles of our run. We finally reached Kelly's Run, the picnic grove, to a completely lack of fanfare finish as we cross the finish line. There's a few wet snacks left there, which we gather, and we limp back to the car. Just as we reach the car, almost in celebratory motion, the clouds part and the sun shines the first time that day. Now, because there's not enough material here for a good type 2 fun day, when we get to the car, we have a very awkward moment, which they made me promise I would include. We are wet, we are tired, we are muddy, but we are smart enough to have brought a change of clothes. The car looks like a private setting, and so we go to change, and there's a few very awkward moments while the 3 of us are trying desperately to be as modest as possible, wrapped in nothing but our towels, as 2 Amish buggies full of family members slowly trot by. Now, I'm not quite sure what you should take from this. I mean, the first is obviously that despite my best attempt, I'm really not much of an athlete. The second thing you might take from it is that Beth and Heather and I have absolutely no common sense. But the third thing is that a stormy run is a perfect example of a type 2 fun day. And I recommend that each of you find something you are slightly uncomfortable with and go out there and try to find a really fun type 2 fun day and find some really great friends to do it with.